Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. When you got into the trades, did you have any idea that would open the door to your future?
No clue. I was just as surprised as everyone else in my life.
And you're not in what most tradespeople would consider a normal trade. Do you consider yourself a carpenter? Almost want to say a handyman, but there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you consider yourself?
Early on, I grew up in a household with my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. There's a difference between self-employed and being an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurs build businesses, and self-employed people just do the best they can to make a living.
Build themselves a job.
Correct. And so I grew up with my dad and my granddad who built and remodeled houses. My dad was a licensed septic installer in 2 states for, most of my life, and I would go on jobs with him and he made enough money to raise a family comfortably, but there was a lot of times that were really tight. When you're doing those types of things, work can be very up and down, So I never had a vision for my life other than, what I saw, which was work hard, make money, raise a family, try and be happy and live happily ever after. I didn't realize I could craft my life off of a vision until way later in life.
I'm assuming that you worked with your dad and your grandfather growing up.
Yep.
What was your favorite part? What did you enjoy about working with them?
Really just the freedom of being able to, at the time, you don't realize this, my dad and myself, butted heads and were very hard to work together, and there's an old saying by Mark Twain. It says, when I was a boy of 15, I could hardly believe how ignorant my dad was. But when I turned 30, I couldn't believe how much he had learned in 15 years, right?
I love that.
The older you get, the smarter you were. And I've always enjoyed building things. I've always enjoyed doing things that people were happy about, that brought value to their lives. I have pretty good vision when it comes to stuff. I was always someone that could see something once and then replicate it almost perfectly. I can take something apart and put it back together. I was raised by a lot of people who fixed a lot of things, from a society that wasn't disposable back in the day, So I'm very hands-on with a lot of stuff and have a depth of vision that allows me to do, certain things that most really don't want to mess with.
Now you're indoors, and I don't mean indoors. I mean, you install doors.
Yep. The number one question I get when I tell somebody that we do doors, residential doors for a living is, "Oh, you do garage doors, right?" And I'm like,
"No, that's Tommy Mello."
That's Tommy Mello, right? Tommy Mello's been a huge influence in my life, but
great guy.
And, but we do everything but overhead, right? Like your front door, your back door, your interior doors. We do all that type of stuff. And when I got into that, it was just kind of a progression to the thing that there's a million plumbers. No offense to any plumbers listening,
there's
right?
a ton of us.
Heat and air, even window companies and things like that. And we really kind of fell into it more than anything. And we were able to generate demand and provide a valuable service that it's really not that difficult. There's not a lot of difficulty to it, but most people are scared of it, and that seems to bring a lot of value to the people that need it. So we were able to generate enough demand to start to make better than a living, and then I started to create a vision that maybe there's something here that we can build a company around this. And so far so good. We continue to grow. We started in 2007 or 8 or so, and like I said, I made a really good living for myself and 1 or 2 other people, but I got to a point to where it was only going to be good for me. And the people that were helping me or working with me, there wasn't enough, we weren't generating enough capital or money, revenue, profit for everyone else to fulfill their dreams, right? Just a paycheck. And I wanted to build something that that I could take other people along for the ride and not just use them and turn them loose to the world for their own good luck after that. So that's why I decided to start the business I have now, to make it as big as I could, to take as many people along for the ride that believe in me and my vision and support my vision every day. So they're probably not going to have a lot of opportunities for big financial windfalls in their lives in the fact that they're supporting someone else's vision, right? So it's, I think, my duty and my responsibility to help provide those opportunities for them down the road.
So you're working with your dad.
Yep.
Working with your grandfather along the way. I guess you worked with both of them.
Yep.
What did you enjoy most when you were working with them? About what particular skill set? You know, if you walked up to a house, if you could say, look, I want to go do this part, what part did you enjoy the most?
I really enjoyed building things, right? Carpentry.
Completely ground up.
Yep. So I did framing for a long time. I've done everything: roofing, framing, painting. I started my first company I ever started when I got out of high school. I started a painting company,
You should have painted garage doors. It turned out pretty good for Tommy. I'm just,
I know, right?
I go back there quite often, but we both know Tommy.
Yeah. What's interesting is when you start to do stuff, you learn what you like and what you don't like, right? It'll all pay the bills, but there's just certain things you don't like, right?
What did you not like?
Well, so like with roofing, I didn't like being on the roof. It's hot. It's a lot of hard work. You got to carry the shingles up and down the ladder.
Great tan though.
Yeah, I know. And so I it was good money, for a kid, but I just realized it wasn't something that I enjoyed doing. And then with painting was the same way. It was something that I was relatively good at, and but I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy doing all the prep work and the sanding and all the things. I loved seeing the vision come to life, and doing all the things, but I didn't enjoy it. It naturally, we've done windows and things like that, but it naturally progressed to, I was getting a lot of calls for doors. And with that, the projects are relatively easy. Meaning the scope's not large, right? I've done kitchen and bath remodels and all the things. And those projects, I was always envious of like the plumbers. They come in, they will move the closet valve over or whatever you need, install the new shower valve, hook up the tub, and, they're out in 6 hours. Yeah. So, but me, I got to stick around and put the tile on the walls, set the vanity, make sure everything's painted right and a wallpaper. And then the homeowner comes in and is like, well, there's some caulking you missed over there, or we decided that one tile doesn't, it looks a little bit different than the rest, and I did not enjoy that part at all. And I was never a big time enough to have a designer, so I always would help people with their own vision and their own designs. And if you're in that industry, in the kitchen and bath, don't do that, because people don't know what they want either, right?
Yes.
And they really need someone that can help them craft a vision. And then that's where, the trades guys can come in and help them fulfill the vision, but make sure that their vision is rock solid. And if it's not, get a change order, right?
This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. No, it makes sense. One thing that you said though, that I want to point out, you said, don't get good at something you don't like. You didn't word it that way, but you're like, look,
Yep.
I didn't like painting, but I was good at it. And they'll tend to guide you or funnel you that direction.
That's exactly what happened.
When I started YouTube, my stepson, who helped me start it, hated editing. God, he was good at it.
Yep.
And as we started growing and needing more things done, he finally said one day, he said, look, I'm going to need help. I can't do all this. It's like, okay, who do we hire? He said, we hire an editor. And I'm like, no, but you do it so good. And we ended up finding a good editor. We've had great editors. That's something people need to learn is don't get really good. Don't practice being really good. It's something you hate because you're liable to end up having to do that forever.
The interesting thing that I've learned later in business is being around people who are great operators, but have very little experience in the actual trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like our friend Gus Santos, he's a great operator. He's probably not a great electrician. Or
Oh, he's
a great
not an
plumber,
electrician.
right?
He's sitting in the same chair you're in,
Yeah.
and looked at me and says, "Roger, you realize I'm not an electrician."
Yeah, you don't have to be great to be an operator, but if you're an owner operator, or one or two trucks, you really need to be great at your craft to be able to provide value to the people that are paying for your services. So that was something that I never really enjoyed doing, was that helped me get to where I'm at with doors. I installed doors for several years as a young man. I bounced around in the trades and stuff, and then I got this job installing. When I moved to Texas, it was 2002, and that was really before the internet was a thing. You couldn't look, iPhones weren't invented then, I don't think. There was some Blackberries and things, but text message was just starting to be a thing.
Right.
And so if you wanted a job, you had to go get the Dallas Morning News and go to the classifieds.
Absolutely.
Right?
I've been there many times.
Yep. And I answered an ad for this guy who was looking for a trim carpenter. And I'm like, I've trimmed out, a ton of houses. We did everything where I grew up. So I answered the ad. He met me on the side of the road in Denton County and gave me a door he had a contract with Home Depot to install the doors, and I installed a bunch of doors. So I'm like, all right, I'll try it. So I went to met him on the side of the road in Denton County, and on a pull off there by Flower Mound, and he gave me this big patio door. We took it apart, put it in my truck, and then I drove to Bridgeport and installed this door. And a couple of days later, he called me. He's like, hey, the homeowner said you did a great job. I went and looked. It looks great. You're hired. So that was kind of my journey into focusing on doors. And I really liked it, because when you're doing replacement work or remodeling work on things that are visual or aesthetic, on things that are like your house and your door looks bad, right? Or it's rotted or whatever, and you replace it with something brand new and it looks beautiful and new. People are always happy when you get done, right? And there's not a lot of detail work. So, it's either right or it's wrong. In a bathroom or a kitchen situation, there's so many details, and that are all subjective to the person who is
It's
paying
not your
for
point
it.
of view.
Yeah.
It's whoever walks in and owns that bathroom says, wait, I don't like this.
And people are, people can be very, very particular and don't care about anything else other than the way they feel and what they want, and which is fine. So with doors, it's either right or it's wrong. And, so I figured out right then that this was kind of what I wanted to do. So I did that for a few years and learned that I really, really love doing doors. For some reason, people screw them up very often. Handymen, as good as they are at a lot of things, they really don't specialize in anything. And we get so many calls to come and fix doors now because someone, a handy person or whatever, had messed it up. So it was just kind of something that we worked our way into and niched down into, and found out that we have a business here. And, I started to get around people who made me think bigger than what I ever thought I could do, and showed me that there's other people doing big things and things that you wouldn't think. And so this starts to generate a thought process in your mind. Well, maybe I can too, and you hang out with winners long enough and they'll brainwash you into thinking you can be successful.
Isn't it funny how that works? So take just a second, Billy, and tell everybody who you are.
Yep.
And what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Billy Cline. I own a company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market called yournewdoor.com. We sell, install, repair, and replace residential entry doors. We don't do any new construction, really. A little bit. We have a few contractors that call us for remodeling type additions and things, but for the most part, we sell direct to consumer. So they go online, they have a need or a want, or we call them demand leads, right? So you go online, you put in whatever, door repair near me or new front door Dallas or whatever, and we come up and they give us a call, and we'll walk you through the steps and the process of what that looks like to replace your door, to achieve your vision, and to make that as easy and seamless as possible. We're really focused on the customer experience.
So doors, not what somebody, did you think growing up, man, I'm going to just install doors on, that's all I'm going to do.
You and I were talking earlier about the E-Myth, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of business, a lot of people who are successful or have started, down the journey of business realize it's really hard. It's much harder than the trade or the craft that we're doing. And there's this thing in the E-Myth that describes the entrepreneurial seizure, right? Like I installed a few doors, and it was got a few customers and referrals and all things. I'm like, wow, this is easy,
making great money for somebody.
Great money, right? And so early on, in my journey was no different. Early on, I love doing doors and I love making money, right? And I was doing it for the money. And if you do things in business only for the money, everyone knows, they can smell it on you. Your customers can smell it on you. Your employees or your team members can smell it on you. And it does not create a culture that's conducive to happiness or trust or quality. And it's a means to an end. And I was just in it for the money for a long time, right? But I didn't know any better. That was the mindset I had, which was just make money. I thought that's how you were successful.
When we're young, we got to pay bills.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want an apartment. I want to eat.
Yep.
I want to have a place to go to sleep. I want to eat again.
Yep.
It takes money.
It takes money. And, as a young person, I didn't have a vision, right? Like my vision was just to survive. And when I started it, I was, relatively single. I wasn't married to my wife at the time, and I didn't have any children. So it didn't take a lot to keep me going.
You bet. I remember my first plumbing company was the same way. I could work an hour or two a day, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, make $600 and go home, and you're good for the week,
Absolutely.
Right? $600 used to go so much further 15 years ago.
I wasn't making that much, but I could go home the rest of the day and worry about tomorrow.
Yeah. So, life has a way of Mike Tyson says, life has a way of visiting humility on you, right? And there's a difference. I used to tell my kids this. There's a difference in humility and humiliation, right? And it's all about perspective. If you're humble and have humility and can see that, then you don't have to be humiliated about what you're going through. It's just part of the journey. Didn't really, understand that early on. So I was just trying to make money. And as I went and as I grew and as I learned a lot of these things and got around people who were doing big things, I realized that my mindset was totally screwed up and I had no clue what I was doing, and it's not good for your clients. It's not good for your team, because they are paying for value, right? There's an exchange of value, or there should be, when you do, things for your clients, and not just an exchange or a transaction. So I've always, not always, but as I matured and grew as a leader and as a business owner, I want to make sure that our clients are getting the best value for their money, even though we're charging way more than others, so it's all about value for me.
You say you're charging more than others. Is there a problem with that?
Not as long as you can deliver value, right? And you and I talked earlier about mindset and having a scarcity mindset. And, I still catch it creeping around and hanging out once in a while. And
so I wanted to ask you something based on that. Do you still have canned groceries, canned food in your pantry?
Yeah.
When's the last time you open a can of vegetables for dinner?
You have to ask my wife that. I actually love black olives, so I have canned black
olives are different.
Yeah.
That's about the only way you can get them.
Not, right? Like,
no, I'm the same way, but I had one of my coaches ask me that one day. We were having the same conversation, scarcity mindset.
Yep.
And he looked at me and said, I guarantee you've got canned vegetables in your pantry. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
He said, when's the last time you opened one and ate them? And I had to go back and think. Ranch style beans.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can get them.
Yeah.
But I don't do my canned corn. I don't do my canned asparagus, nothing like that. Maybe mushrooms if I'm going to say really hard up for mushrooms and I don't have any fresh ones and I want to make sauteed mushrooms or something. And even with the canned ones are not any good. And I'm like, dude, I need to clean out my pantry.
Yep. Yeah. So the whole scarcity mindset thing, I have a theory, right? I was raised by someone who went through the Great Depression, right?
And most of us were, or are.
If you're, of our age or older even, and
I'm the older.
I'm
the older.
Yeah. I'll be 47 in a couple months, but
my dad, I guess,
my dad is considered a baby boomer, right? He's 64, 65, somewhere in there, 66.
And I'm 61, or will be. So right there with him.
Yeah. So people that went through the Depression, they lived it. It was real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a scarcity mindset. It was just the way of life. Things were scarce and they had to survive. And then, along came World War II. And there was a huge financial boom in the country due to the war, right, and manufacturing, and what came after when all the soldiers came back. There was a housing shortage and a car shortage, and everybody kind of had a little bit of money, and which has created a lot of what we see today of the consumerism is a product of what happened when these people came back from war and they had a little money and they wanted to
They want to spend it.
Yeah, they want to spend
I
it.
need a house. I need a car.
Yeah, all these things.
You bet.
But what happened was the people that really were left behind, that really experienced hard times during the Depression, that mindset carried over with them, and it was ingrained into their children, who are the children that raised us, right? And
because just wait a minute, it's going to happen again.
Yeah,
Gotta be ready for it.
I'm 3 generations away from the Great Depression, but I realized that I still had some of that scarcity mindset. When I was growing up, you always hear that costs too much. You can't do that. That'll never work, right? It's not worth that. And that's how subconsciously, I realized that's how I was living my life. I was looking at things through that lens instead of, you know what, if I spend this, it's going to generate this, or, through a value lens instead of a cost lens. And, when I realized that, it was like,
now, hold on. Tell the story about how you realized it.
So I had bought some vans before COVID, right? And some work vans, and they were, high upper 30s, and okay, no problem. And then a couple years later, COVID, 2021, 2020, and there, we were all trying to figure it out. Business got real good, for a lot of us in the trades during COVID, and I needed more vans because I had more techs. I went to buy new vans and they were almost 60,000. And I remember walking away from the dealership that day upset. I'm like, there's no way they're worth 60,000. They were just, under 40,000.
And you didn't buy it, did you?
I didn't buy it. And 2 weeks later I went back. I slept on it for a while. And one day I heard something. I can't remember who it was or where it was. And they were talking about cost versus value. And, that was kind of my transition in thinking, business minded instead of money minded. And I realized that if one van roughly for 60,000 is $1,000 a month, right? And that one van, I can give it to a technician and he can go and generate $50,000 or $60,000 a month in revenue with that van. Is it really costing me 60,000? It's costing me 60,000 a month by not having it.
By not having it, exactly.
So would you exchange $1,000 a month for 60,000? Absolutely, right? So right then I realized my mindset was broken, that I was broken, that that I was a product of my raising. No fault of my parents. They were all just trying to figure it out.
You bet.
That's how they were raised.
They were trying to survive just like we
trying
are.
to survive, and so I realized that my mindset was broken and I needed to fix it. So I started, that was the beginning of my mindset journey, of my personal and professional development journey. That was in 2021. I started listening to podcasts and listening to books. I quit listening to the radio. I pretty much quit watching TV if it wasn't a documentary or something like that, a business show of some sort. I started investing in myself, and reading all the first books that we all read, the E-Myth, Think and Grow Rich.
On my must reads, go ahead.
All must reads.
Now, what other books?
Dale Carnegie.
How to Win Friends.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you're out there listening to this and you haven't read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and you're curious about just getting started, and changing your life, read that book first. It will change your life. It'll teach you how to communicate well. It'll teach you how to treat people and how to share points of view and get people to, if you have a team or you want to build a team, you really need a lot of the principles that book teaches on how to act and react, to certain situations when you're working with people. It was written in 1930, 31, somewhere around the Depression, actually. Those principles are still alive and well today. I don't care if it was written in the 1700s. That book will change your life.
Well, and
it's
Think
just
and Grow Rich, what, 1937?
All in that era.
The Richest Man in Babylon,
Yep.
31, 32.
Yep.
And I may be wrong on my years, so don't quote the years to me, but they're not new books.
No, the principles are foundational. They are timeless, and they are fundamental. And if you don't have those fundamental principles as your baseline of your new mindset, right, you're going to have gaps. You're going to have gaps anyway, and you need to fill it by getting around people who have those resources and knowledge to pour into you. But I started reading books, started listening to podcasts. I started asking other business guys for help as far as mentorship and things like that. When I realized my mindset was broken, it was like it was like I went from seeing in black and white. Have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz?
Oh yeah.
So when the house falls on the Wicked Witch and Dorothy is suddenly standing in Oz and she can see in color, right?
Absolutely.
I'm getting chill bumps just thinking about it.
No, I've got a country music song I listen to in color.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Absolutely.
But it was like I went from seeing in black and white to seeing in 3D Technicolor, right? There was suddenly so much opportunity and so much runway between me and the horizon. It literally changed my life in that one instance. I'm gonna get emotional thinking about it, because
it's a big
really
deal.
is that big of a deal. And a lot of people, a lot of the gurus online, a lot of people selling courses and weight loss and all the things, it's all mindset. The basis of any program, I don't care whose it is, the basis of any program that is sold online or courses or seminars or whatever, the very fundamental basis of that is mindset.
Get your mind right.
If your mind's not right, it doesn't matter how much money you spend. It doesn't matter how many seminars you go to. It doesn't matter how many gurus you get on Zoom calls with. It doesn't matter. And
because whether you decide you can or you can't,
you're right. Right.
Henry Ford.
Yep. And if you can't arrest your mindset, and when I say arrest your mindset, you're still going to be a human. You're still going to have doubts, and you're still going to have all these we all go through periods of doubting ourselves and if we're doing the right thing. But if you've got that mindset that whatever it takes, you're not going to quit, and you're going to see this through. If you make up your mind to do that, the rest of it will come to you. Mindset, I made a post on Facebook earlier, mindset over skill set, right? And I can point to Gus Ontos, right? Like, he doesn't have a plumber's skill set. He doesn't have an electrical skill set. He doesn't have a heat and air skill set, but he's got one of the biggest plumbing, heating, electrical companies in the United States, right? Probably the biggest in Dallas for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But he doesn't have those skill sets, but he has the mindset. And when I hire new technicians, I love hiring young people. People say the popular mindset in business world, if you get around the wrong people, is people don't want to work anymore. Kids don't want to work. There's no one that'll work. You can't hire people. Okay, that's fine. I'm doing it every day, right? Tommy Mello's doing it every day.
There are some that don't.
Sure.
I was on Dr. Phil with kids. It's like, look, I tried 3.5 years to be an electrician, and I decided I didn't want people to tell me when I had to get up.
That's a mindset problem.
I didn't want people to tell me when I had to be at work. I didn't want people to tell me what I have to do. He said, so I stayed at home, found a job on the internet, and now I work for myself.
That's fine.
And I'm like, brother, I feel for you.
Yeah. But they say that there's not any though, right? The problem
there's
is
plenty out there.
They're just not willing to go through what it takes to find them. And they don't have the culture that those people want to be involved with anyway.
Exactly.
When I listen to people say, my team, I can't get them to do this, or they're coming in late, they don't show up, that's not their fault. That's your fault, right? You haven't installed a culture that they want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And, we can go into that if you want later, but it's the mindset. It's a mindset at every level. And what I realized is, if I'm going to scale my company, I need people with the right mindset. So we hire young people now. I prefer to have someone that comes in and has zero experience. If they've got a good attitude, there was a kid yesterday. I'm getting ready to build a small house on a lot I have. And this kid, I was out there and he come to mark the utilities. He might've been 24 or 25, but he looked me in the eye. He shook my hand firmly and was like, "Hey sir, I'm here to do this." He introduced himself. He didn't have to do that.
Absolutely.
I gave him my card and I said, hey, if you're ever looking for something bigger and better, give me a call. I need people like you, right? And that's what you look for in someone, right? Someone that is has, at a minimum for me, if they can read a tape measure, have a driver's license, and have a good attitude, I can turn them into what I need them to be. I've got a kid that's 20, 21 years old. He started working for me when he was 17. He was homeschooled. He's one of my best installers. He's making, $2,500 a week now, and just got a good mindset though.
Now $2,500 a week for a door installer. Is that what he's doing for you? Just installing doors, or does he do other things too?
Well, he's installing and repairing doors, right?
Okay.
So we can take a door out of the hole, take it totally apart, build a new frame for it, new threshold, new all composite system.
And I didn't mean that bad. That wasn't nothing like that.
Yeah.
He's how old?
I think he's 21 now, 20 or maybe he's 20. I don't know.
At $2,500 a week.
Yep. I just saw one of his bigger paychecks the other day, and they get paid on performance pay. So they get paid a percentage of what they do. That's another thing, right? People,
so, hold on. That's $125,000 a year. They're about.
Yeah. If you can.
For 25 years old.
Yeah.
Did he go to college?
Nope.
Did he need to go to college?
He was homeschooled, right?
No, I get it.
He started at 17, and
I'm
blown away by young people. 70% of my team is under 30 years old, right? And we have some older people that are in the office that help to guide and lead these younger people because, let's face it, they're young. They don't have life experience, so there's some coaching needed in some of those areas. But if you're going to scale a company, you especially in the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think this is a problem that the plumbing trades are running into. You're not going to be able to do it with old guys, right?
You bet.
And when
they're ready to retire,
Even I tell my people all the time, I want to pay you value. I hope you make $300,000 this year. I want you to get to where you're getting paid for what you know and not for your time.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you're 45 years old and you're still
swapping time for money,
you're swapping time for money. Your value is your time, right? Yep. What you should hope to achieve is to start getting paid for what you know, right? Bringing value through your knowledge, and when you can, start to do that, that's when you're adding value to your organization, you're adding value to your own company, you're adding value to your customers or whatever it is. You have to add value, and value is one of my big words. It's a buzzword around my office. I'm always, my vision, value, virtues, things like that, and if you're not adding value, you're just selling me your time. I don't want to buy your time. I will for a little while until you get to where you can, perform and do things.
Hopefully you can learn your way up out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we try and instill in our young people. There's plenty of young people that want to work. Some of them come in and they prove me wrong, and we, give them the opportunity to go bless some other company,
coach them up or coach them out.
Yep. So, but the ones that stick around are doing really good. We, give them lots of opportunities, and I want to share in the success that we have, and my vision. And I learned this from Tommy, and I believe this. My vision is big enough for everyone else's to fit inside. What's really cool about vision, though, is when you think you have a big vision and you get around other people with big visions, you're like, oh man,
I'm thinking small.
I'm thinking so small, and then you get around people that are doing bigger things. You're like, wow, I really have a vision for something that I have no idea how to do. And you don't have to. You just need to know the people who do, right?
Love that. This video is sponsored by High Level. We've partnered up with High Level because we believe this is the best all-in-one sales and marketing platform to help you grow your business. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. What do young people think when you talk to them about, look, how would you like to install doors?
A lot of young people they're just what I described earlier. They're just looking for a decent paycheck. We just hired a young man, I don't know, a couple months ago. My stepson, Brian, he goes to this gym, and there was this young man that worked at the front desk, and he was always in there, and Brian kind of, built a kinship with him, and they would talk every morning or whatever. And he was telling him how he had to work 2 jobs, and they were cutting his hours and these others, so he was trying to pick up shifts from other people at the gym, and he's only making like $14 an hour. And Brian could tell he was a hard worker and had a good attitude, and Brian was like, you can come over and interview with us. We're starting apprentices out at $18 an hour if you have a driver's license, can show up on time, and can read a tape measure.
That's huge right there. And I've got a video out there teaching people how to read a tape measure. It's not hard.
So, if you don't know anything, we'll start you out at $18 an hour as an apprentice, and you'll be paired in a truck with a junior tech or a senior tech, and they'll take you out and show you how we do our things. And we have a checklist on. We've only got like 5 or 6 different service SKUs that we offer, so it's not a lot to it. Usually in 6 months they are able to go from an hourly apprentice, an hourly apprentice is what we call it, to a junior tech, right? And once you get to junior tech, that means that we feel like you have the capability and capacity to communicate well with the customers, to communicate well with the support staff, your dispatcher, project manager, things like that. And also do basic level tasks like install a single door on your own, or reset a door, or rebuild a door frame. So those types of things are what get you there. And once you get to junior tech, though, you get a percentage of the ticket. So we have 3 levels of technicians that are all on performance pay once you get out of apprenticeship. We've had wild success doing it that way. We've tried hiring door guys. They come from other companies, or they're from new construction or whatever. They all have their way of doing stuff, and that's fine. But we have systems and processes because we want to deliver a repeatable value experience to our customers. And we found that it's hard to do that when you get guys in that are experienced in the craft. They think it's only about doing the thing, and it's not. It's
just the door.
It's about the customer experience, right? And the customer experience is probably almost as important as the product you're installing, right?
And probably more so.
More so.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. We're in the customer service business, right? We're in the people business. We're not in the door business. The widget just happens to be doors.
You bet.
And I mean that we've got 2 types of customers: our team members, our internal customers, and the people that hire us, our external customers. And if I take care of the team members and treat them well, and put together a good culture that they're proud to work for, they come to work happy and all the things, then when they get in the customer's house, they're going to treat the customer's home with respect. They're going to treat the customers with respect, and they're going to feel that. And the end result is not only money, but these days it shows up in your reviews, right? So when
huge.
Yeah. When I start to see things come back, like if we get a bad review, which rarely happens, it does happen occasionally, but rarely happens, I jump in immediately, and it's a code red. It's all hands on deck. What do we got to do? Where did we fail this customer? How do we fix it? And then I'll start going in, and I'll look at pictures of jobs and things like that to see if there's a pattern of any issues with this installer or whatever. And we fix it, right? Because at the end of the day, in 2024 and beyond, if you aren't taking care of the customers right, it's going to show up in your Google reviews or your Facebook reviews. Yep. And if it starts to show up there, you can tell what kind of company you're working with, And if you're not taking care of your customers, you're not going to be in business very long, because good news travels slow, bad news travels fast, right?
Boy, and I'll tell you what, with the internet today, it travels a whole lot faster than it used to.
It's crazy. But that's the world we live in.
I remember when I was growing up, because my parents taught swimming lessons out of the house, had their own business, and they did it in the summers when Dad would take, he had been with the Ma Bell system, Southwestern Bell, AT&T, Western Electric, all that for forever. So literally he had, I think 8 weeks vacation. Well, he'd take it in the summer, and they'd plan swimming lessons for 2 months. Mm. And Mom would help him. And as I got older, I'd help and all that. But at about the age of 12, our home phone was now a business phone. So anytime you answer the phone, because we didn't have caller ID back then, you literally picked up the phone not knowing who's on the other end. Yep. Now, that's a scary thought for a lot of people these days. But you would literally pick up the phone. It's like, thank you for calling D Bob Swimmers. This is Roger. May I help you? And then they'd come in a few weeks later to bring their kids in for lessons. And mom would be like, this is Bob, this is Roger. And they're like, wait, this is Roger? It's like, yeah. It's like, well, I talked to him on the phone. I thought he was like an adult, that he ran this business. And that's how we were taught as kids.
Yeah.
And, I'm lucky because my parents did teach us. They instilled so much in us.
Yep.
Even if it was a scarcity mindset.
Yep.
We're always broke. We never have money.
But you work hard.
But you work very hard.
Yep.
And, we did. We learned a lot. So the question is, are we still instilling some of those same values in the kids that we're raising today? Are most parents instilling those values?
That's a different podcast. We probably need Dr. Phil in here for that one.
Well, I talked to him a while back, so that could be a good one.
I've got a theory, right? Because I have 3 stepsons. When I married my wife, she had 3 little boys, and I've raised them. And I've got the oldest one is Brian. He's 31. We got a 23-year-old and one to be 18 in a couple weeks. And Brian was pretty much raised by his mother, who was a single mom, right? Mm-hmm. He was 16 when I come along. For all intents and purposes, was relatively raised, and it was a struggle, right? Single mom raising a child on her own. There's a lot of things that they do without or go without, or Christmases and all things, right?
And it was a struggle, but I mean, she's a very intelligent woman.
For sure.
It wasn't like she was out working 4 jobs, never home, feed yourselves, all that.
Yep.
She's very intelligent.
Yep.
Good mother, knows how to talk,
Absolutely.
how to speak.
Yep. And I make this comparison because Brian was raised in a struggle environment, right, where everything was a struggle. Grant, on the other hand, is at the other end of the spectrum for us, and there's
no struggle.
There hasn't been a struggle, right? So Brian's level of motivation is that, I have no doubt he could go out and hustle up and kill something and drag it home.
You bet.
He's going to go out and fend for himself. No problem. If doesn't need anything. And that's
referring to eating, y'all. There's no criminal activity involved here.
Yeah. Grant, on the other hand, my youngest, is the product of what we've all strived for, right?
To be able to provide for our
children. We want to do better for our kids than our parents could do for us. And as a result, we have a product in these children that don't want anything, right? We give them everything that they want, and they don't have Grant. I'm using my own family as an example. Great kid, don't get me wrong. He is a super good kid. He doesn't get in trouble. He's very well mannered.
Y'all were bragging about all 3 of them last night. So there's nothing wrong with any of them.
But it drives me crazy. He has zero interest in he's really into fast cars and all this stuff. I'm like, come to work with me. I'll tell you how to get all of them you want, right? I'll teach you how to earn enough money to get the things that you want. And, what I realized over time is he'll probably at some point snap out of it, when he matures, and he's like, we think our kids don't pay attention or learn from us, but then we get around other people and like, oh, your kid is so smart or does this or that. I'm like, really?
And see, my thought is get him a job as a mechanic. And then it's like, look,
Absolutely.
You can buy any car and make it go as fast as you want.
Well, the first thing I feel like I need to do as his parent is to help him to not just give him the things that he wants.
You bet.
And it becomes a lot harder as they get older because that's what they're used to growing up. And I only make that comparison because Brian didn't get all the things
right. No, I love
that the youngest one has gotten. And I can see a difference in their motivation and their drive, right? Like Brian, I promise, could be an entrepreneur and probably will be at some point. Grant, on the other hand, he's got a long way to go. When I was 17 and I wanted something, I would go wash the neighbor's car or mow the grass or knock on doors, right?
You and me both.
Whatever. And I would get it, but that's how I thought it was supposed to be. But the younger generation are victims of their parents who have provided everything that they've ever wanted, because that's what we've always wanted to do for our kids. And I'm like, oh, man, it's too late, but we should have pumped the brakes on that a little bit, It's not too late, don't get me wrong, but
no, I know what you mean.
And it's in a relation to their age, So it's something that, listen, our parents there's no manual to come with kids. I was pretty bent out of shape, in my early 20s because I felt like my parents did me wrong raising me. And then when I had kids, I'm like, golly, they just did the best they could.
And that's what it is. Most of them are.
And they weren't negligent. They didn't, harm us in any way or anything. I just felt like they should have done more for us because my friends, had quote unquote rich parents or whatever. They got all the cool stuff.
Paddled. My parents mistreated me. I got paddled, got told to go to my room.
Yeah. They got new cars. We didn't. All the things, right? But I wouldn't change it for the world.
You bet.
It's turned me into who I am, right? And there's nothing at all in my life that I would change from the environment that I was raised in. Number one, it's given me perspective, right, on how it was, how it is, and how I want it to be. So there's some comparison there. So if I don't like how it is, I can change it and be how I want to be, but I never want to go back to how it was, right?
Has he read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
No, he's not necessarily interested too much in at this moment. I think he just needs to go to college and be hungry for a little bit, go out and have to eat ramen and get a job.
I'll pay for your education, but food and everything else, that's up to you.
Hard times are important, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that no one will ever appreciate any level of success ever, unless they've experienced some hard times, because it makes those successful moments that much sweeter, right? That you've overcome adversity, you've overcome the odds, you've got this thing on your wall here that says set goals so high they laugh, crush them while they watch, right?
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't know that unless you went through hard times. And when you're in the middle of a trough in life, because life is a series of waves, highs and lows. And when you're in the middle of a trough and you're telling people, hey, I'm going to do this or that, and they're looking at you, you're like, yeah, right.
Dude, you're on the bottom rung.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
And you go out and prove them wrong. Use that as fuel. Don't use it as don't do it for them. You do it for yourself and use that as motivation, because when you started your YouTube channel, right? Like, I'm sure that you grew up with people or even some people in your family were like, oh, Roger, you're going to be famous. Ha, ha, ha. Right.
Oh, no, they never even thought that. That wasn't even the joke.
Yeah.
It was like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People just don't understand.
So talking about, you call it The Trough.
Yep.
Have you read The Dip by Seth Godin?
I have not.
You need to.
Yeah, I will.
Because that's what it's about. It's like, look, you've got to go down here and you're going to get down here and either you can stop and stay down there,
yep,
or you know what, you can motivate and push up.
Yep.
And the book starts out somewhere in the beginning. It's like, look, if you're not trying to be the very best at what you do, why not?
Absolutely.
The best get paid the most.
Yep.
And period, bottom line. And he goes through and gives lots of examples, but explains the theory behind it. And it is probably one of the shortest, quickest, easiest reads I've ever done.
I will order it today.
And I've got it on audio, so it's you could probably be done with it by the time you get home, to be honest.
I listen to books on 2 times speed.
I listen to them at about 1 1/4, 1.5.
Yeah.
I want to listen to it slow enough. I know I don't miss a word, but this one just literally, and this is one of those, people say, read a book a week, read 52 books a year. And I'm like, that's nuts.
It's not necessary.
It's not, to me, it's not good. You're drinking water out of a fire hose.
Yep.
It's hard to implement anything because as soon as you get something out of this book you need to do, well, you're already on to another book.
I got another tip when you get done with your.
Mine is, and this is one that I heard from a speaker one time, pick 5 books and read them 10 times.
Yep.
Can you imagine if you read Think and Grow Rich 10 times this year? You read E-Myth 10 times this year. You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad 10 times this year.
Yep.
You read The Dip 10 times this year. And man, I'd probably go with Good to Great.
Yeah. So are you, I'm sure being in the trades, you know who Ken Goodrich is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he tells this story about the E-Myth.
You bet.
He's carried around in his back pocket and
read
it 80 something times, maybe. I can't remember. Many, many times. And he would use it like a business manual. And when he run into a problem, he would open it up.
What does it tell us to do?
Exactly.
Isn't that amazing?
And Think and Grow Rich is one that I read every year. I try and do it every year. I listen to it mostly, but every book that I buy, I'll get it on audio, and I also get a
hard copy that we can highlight it.
Yeah, I highlight it. But I want to look on my bookshelf and see, what my journey's been like, what's helped me through my journey. When I first started reading books and listening to books, man, I was whole hog, wholesale, everything, when I realized that wasn't always a good thing was I read Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First. Great principle. But when I went to implement it and do all the things, it wasn't all for me. And what I realized was when you read a book, take the things that are helpful for you now and use what you can from that book and build your own Frankenstein from what you learn.
You bet.
And bolt things on that work for you now. Remember the things that may work for you later and go back and revisit them. And that's when you need something later, you can go back and read that book again. I'm like, wow, this is very timely. I need this. So that's just, be careful, especially if you're early in your journey of learning and gaining knowledge. Be careful about going wholesale into every book you read, especially if you have a team, because what happens is your people come back and you're all excited about doing stuff. And the same thing if you go to a conference and come back, oh, great, Bill read another book. Here we go again, right? So just take what works for you now, remember what might work for you later, and bolt it all together and make your own version of what you learn. And
yeah, I love that because I go to a ton of conferences now. I love the trades conferences.
Yep.
I love the social media conferences. I love the speaker conferences. Yep. I'm doing so many different things and learning. But one thing, and I literally talked about this in Cincinnati just the other day, people ask me, how did you get to where you're at? How did you do what you did for social media? And I'm like, well, number one, I spent $47,000 on marketing companies to make my phone stop ringing.
Yep.
And I compare that to just drive down the road, throw $47,000 cash out the window, and know that when you get to your office, your phone's not going to ring.
Yep.
How do you survive?
No scarier feeling, especially when you have a team behind you that
you're trying to feed and pay their bills
you're
and
responsible.
take care of them and pay for their kids and everything. So that's exactly what it was like. But people say, yeah, but, and even the conference directors have come up to me and they're like, Roger, look, you're one of our greatest success stories because you literally came in and you learned something and you walked out and implemented it and look where you're at now.
You don't call them 1%ers for nothing.
Exactly. But well, yeah. And you're probably pretty close to accurate on the numbers.
Yeah, maybe 5%, between 1 and 5.
Well, and at this conference, I'm saving less than that because there's, I think at this conference I was at, there were 6,000 people. And I'm the one they talk about.
Yeah.
And they're like, what did you do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I took one thing and implemented it.
Yep.
And I learned from such amazing speakers at that conference. I mean, Pete Vargas about how to get on stage and talk and speak. Daryl Eves about YouTube. Sean Cannell. I mean, there were so many. I met Jesse Cole there, the Savannah Bananas, the yellow tuxedo.
Yep.
And I learned from so many people. And the thing about books is that you're going to learn something at each one. And I learned about speaking. I learned about YouTube. And when I left that Friday, I didn't get to stay the whole day because I had a radio show in Dallas the next morning. Didn't get to stay for the final keynote. So I'm on a plane at about 3:34 in the afternoon. I've got both tray tables down. I've got my laptop. I've got my iPad. I've got my notebook. And I've got all the little notepads that they leave laying around for you to take notes on. And I'm coming up with an implementation plan. And, I tell them this every time I go back, because when I go back, so many people come up and like, oh my God, what is the one thing? Everybody wants, what's the silver bullet? The silver bullet is I implemented. Well, would you implement? I implemented a whole lot of things, but I implemented one thing at a time. And that's what I think makes people more successful is, you read these books, you're not going to be able to read Think and Grow Rich and implement every different process, mindset, chapter, theory at the same time and say, now we're perfect.
Yep.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Pick one.
I'm pretty sure in Think and Grow Rich, it talks about the immutable, burning desire for success.
You bet.
Right. And when you have that, you can see it in people, right? Like, especially people that you can tell have been struggling and suddenly they start to seemingly have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
They never really have it all together. They just start doing the things that they need to be doing. And to the people who will never get it all together, it looks like they're the biggest successes in the world. You know, I had a guy that I was in the roofing business with shortly after high school. We were roofing new construction houses. It's a funny story, but he reached out to me, I don't know, about 3 months ago, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I've been watching you, your journey on your social media and stuff, and I could see you were struggling before, and it just looks like overnight you've turned it all around." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a 20-year overnight success, right?"
Absolutely.
But you start living your principles, and you start living these things that you learn, and you start implementing. But I keep going back to mindset, right? And once you get the right mindset, people will be able to tell. You don't have to say it. You don't have to tell people you're a lion. They can tell, right? You become a different person. Your outlook is different. Your motivations are different. And you don't waste time. You don't take the time to sit at home, on the weekend and binge watch, 3 seasons of whatever on Netflix, right? Like, you got better things to do,
Unless you're laying in bed with a pulled muscle in your calf and you're like, okay, I've got to have something to do.
Absolutely.
Which was my day Wednesday, so it was nuts.
But you're always thinking about what's next. What do I need to do next? What do I need to learn next? Where is the gap in my game right now? And what do I need to fill that with? And I mentioned something to you earlier, getting in these rooms that you don't feel like you belong in. I have always, especially financially, tried to pull myself up to the level that I wasn't quite ready yet for, and it creates a lot of hard times for you financially when you're doing that financially. But if you have the gumption and the staying power to fight through it and get to that level, even though it's going to be hard for a minute, it's your new floor, right? It's no longer a ceiling, it's a floor. And if you get into rooms with people who are doing the things already, who've already gone through a lot of those hard things that you're in the midst of right now, they will help you to craft your mindset to fight through that stuff, because you can tell you're going to win when you get to the other side. These people didn't give up. They continued to learn. And if I continue to do that, I know that I'm going to win. And if you know that, I walk around knowing that I'm going to win, right? I don't know what the scoreboard is going to look like. Right. I just know I'm going to win. It may be, it may be 500,000, it may be 500 million, but I know I'm going to win, and any of that in there is fine. But I'm not going to stop until I can't go anymore, until it's not fun for me, or I don't enjoy it, or I'm not helping others win also. That's the other thing. When you start to win, you need to help others, because someone helped you. I mentioned Tommy a lot, and the very first event that I ever went to was Pantheon, in 2022, right? Like, which I've never been to. Yeah. It's an amazing event. It's for Service Titan users mostly, right? And the Service Titan is a CRM that we use. They host this event every year, and they get all the best tradespeople there that are successful and doing big things, and they bring them and you listen to them talk about different things, different areas where you may be struggling. There's breakouts, there's all kinds of stuff, keynotes. So I went there. That's where I first met Tommy. I talked to him on the phone, I think maybe once before that, but I'd listened to his podcast well before. And then he had an event later that year. I couldn't afford to go. I couldn't afford to go to Pantheon. Right. They gave me tickets, and I figured out how to get there. My mindset going into that was, this is just I'm just gonna hear a bunch of stuff that I'm already hearing in podcasts, right? And outside of that, I wasn't sure I was gonna get any value, but the tickets were free. All I had to do was pay for my hotel and my airfare. You bet. So, and I know tradespeople that go to events like that, and they'll stay at the Motel 6 a mile down the road. Yeah. And I mean, I've talked to them. I've heard their stories. They're like, look, I couldn't even afford to stay at the hotel that it was at. I stayed at the Motel 6 a mile down the road, and walked each day. And yeah, you hear some of these stories and it's nuts. This is how I personally learned how important these events were, right? My second or third event I went to was one that Tommy hosted. He called it Vertical Track, right? And of course, Tommy's in the garage door business, and I didn't have any money to go. So someone gave me a ticket to go to that. And I went. It was at the Biltmore Hotel. I don't know if you know anything about the Biltmore, but it was very expensive.
You bet.
Right. I think just the rooms alone were like $3,000, you know?
Yep.
And I went. I didn't know how I was going to make payroll. Didn't know how we were going to do all this stuff, but I went. And then I went to the next one, and I went to the next one. And I was so hungry. And I say all this for perspective, right? That was 2 years ago, right? Like barely 2 years ago. I was so hungry for knowledge and so hungry, but I didn't know then what I know now, that by doing that has accelerated all the things.
Doesn't it though?
That you don't have to fight through it, right? Like if you get around people who've already done it,
So much easier.
you get around successful people, they'll brainwash you into being successful too.
This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. Hire the right coaches, consultants, trainers, mentors, whatever it is. And one of the biggest things that I tell people is do what they say.
Do what they say.
They're coaching you for a reason. You're listening to them for a reason. The biggest thing that I see so many people do, and social media is horrible about it. You know, Roger told me I need to fix my thumbnails. I need to fix my titles. I need to do more research on my videos. But instead, I want to make a video about this thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a thumbnail. We'll just take a clip out of the video. The title's going to be, this is the thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you reached out to me. You asked me to help you. I give you all this great advice, and you ain't doing shit.
Yep. People, I now have, and I'm going to make a point on that point. I have always been a helpful person, right? I love to try and, I'm a fixer. I like to fix things, right? And it drives my wife crazy, but
Same way.
yeah.
So I get it.
I like to help. So now, right? I don't know. You may have seen my social media posts where I like to support Tommy's events, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he has this thing now called Home Service Freedom, and he invites people from all different trades to come. It's not just heat and air. It's not just plumbing. But the last one I went to, there was fence companies there, window companies, even ACM plumbing, handymen, stuff like that. But there's not a lot of best practice groups for a lot of these peripheral niches.
You bet.
And so I now purchase tickets to give away to people.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take people who have never been to an event,
Pay it forward.
people who are struggling to make payroll or to get leads or whatever, right? And if I can get them there, that's what I tell them. I'll get you the ticket. I'll get you there. And I've even paid for hotel rooms for guys that just couldn't do it, you know? And I get so much good feedback from those people that I do that for. That someone did it for me, and it changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. It changed the trajectory of my family and my future for financially, right? And I'm just getting started. It's only been 2 years for me since I started on this journey, and I've already got all the things that I ever prayed for when I was struggling, right? So life can't get much better, for me. And my wife and I talk about it all the time, how grateful we are for what we have. And we know we're just getting started, right? But I want to help other people. And it starts with, just helping them to see the mindset piece, right? So if I can get them around other people that already have, some mindset things, what I was talking about earlier, why these events are so important. At first I thought it was just podcast, stuff, right? It's not. It's the people you meet while you're there, the people that are going through the exact same thing that you are, the people that are making the tough decisions on payroll or paying rent or making payroll or whatever it is, because we all went through that. And there's many of you maybe listening now that are going through that. Get around people who are a little bit ahead of you or a little bit beyond that. Go visit shops. Go,
Successful companies.
Get around successful people, and those people want to help, right? I want to help people. I'm by no means a success. The interesting thing about success is as long as you're looking forward and moving forward, it's cool. The people who are beyond you, when they look back, they don't see you as not a success as long as you're trying.
They see you on the path.
And when those people help you or give you resources or share their contact with you or their Rolodex or whatever, you best implement it, because if they see you not reading the book or not doing the thing that they've taken their time.
Yeah. Did you read that book I recommended? No, I hadn't had time.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Right.
You bet.
But when they see you're hungry and they see that you want to do big things and that you're doing the things that they suggest, they'll help you. They will literally come and pick you up, whatever it takes, right? Tommy Mello flew to my house, didn't know me from Adam, come and hung out for a couple of days to help me, with some vision and insights into what I was doing, right?
He's phenomenal.
Didn't ask for anything in return,
He is phenomenal.
Yeah. So I know I reference Tommy a lot, but he's been a big influence. He's a good friend of mine. There's many others. Ken Goodrich, we mentioned him earlier. I can text Ken right now and say, "Hey, Ken, I got this idea or this problem."
Ken doesn't return my texts. He doesn't. I could probably show you the last 6 or 8 texts I've sent him. He doesn't reply. Doesn't
He's
return
a busy
them.
guy.
And yeah, but I mean, I was introduced to him from Michael Gerber.
Well, I know him and Michael wrote a book too.
I know that. Yeah. That's how I first found out about Ken. Michael hooks me up with Ken, and I'm texting him like, "Hey, man," he said, "Look, I'll give you my whole plan. I'll tell you everything I did. I'll send you the system. I'll do all this." A couple of weeks later, like, "Hey, it's Roger. Hello. Everything went away. And I've met Ken. I've seen him. Look, I think he's got an amazing story. God, I'd love to have him in here. And it's like, dude, what'd I do to make you mad?
Hey, Ken, if you're seeing this, reach out to Roger.
I know. Ken.
Hit him up.
Ken, call me, brother. So take just a minute. Tell everybody again who you are and what you do.
Yep. Billy Cline. Now, I'm a consultant basically in my own business, right? I used to do everything. And, in my business, there's basically 5 pillars, and I've got a leader that I trust and that I've trained in each of those that I basically consult on how to run their mini business inside mine.
Right.
Entrepreneurs. And, so my job now is to raise enterprise value. And it's not to answer the phone, to sell a door or whatever, but it's to consult my people on what I know. But we sell, install, and repair residential entry doors. It's called yournewdoor.com. We're here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. We're going to go to other markets soon regionally, and then hopefully we'll take over the whole United States. So,
good for you.
Yeah, we got a vision for big things. I just got to continue to get around people that have done these big things, and they'll help me with the confidence and resources or knowledge that I need to not step on some of these landmines.
I like that.
Yep.
Tell me about the worst day you ever had at work.
The worst day I ever had at work, there's been a bunch. One that really comes to the front of my mind first was I was at one of these events that I was speaking about early on, and my phone starts blowing up from all my people, and paychecks are bouncing left and right. You've never experienced anxiety like that as a business owner until your people are calling you crying, wanting to know what's going on. And, it turned out that it was, more of a clerical error than anything, but cash flow is always a problem in business, right? And it doesn't matter how big of a business you are, your business lives and dies on cash flow. So if we'd had a proper amount of cash flow, that wouldn't, even a clerical error wouldn't have caused that. So that was probably, one of the worst days. Why I really don't feel like I was in business until 2 years ago. I had been doing the thing for a long time, but I wasn't a businessman. So that one stands out, in the front of my mind, I can
imagine that.
Yep. I've got this theory that you really aren't an entrepreneur or a business owner until you've written a personal check to make payroll.
Been there, done that. Yeah. Refinance the house to make sure that we were good.
Yeah.
So
I used, and my wife and I, it almost caused a divorce, like we had some money or whatever, and I was sneaking money out,
to go fishing.
No. Well, that
I'm
too.
joking.
That was probably a big part of it, but I was using our own personal money to put in the business to make payroll.
You bet.
Right.
I've been there.
And it was not that it would have been a big deal had I shared it with her, but my wife, it really is, the secret to my success.
Oh, she's smarter than you. I'll tell you
She's
that. And just
absolutely
in case you
smarter
don't know, you married way up.
I don't need
You're a
people
good
to tell me
salesman.
that.
You're a good salesman, brother.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So
okay, so tell me about your best day at work.
So my best day at work is, we, as I scale my business, what I realized is that there's there becomes a limit to what you can self-manage, right? A number of people or components in your business or whatever. And, as we've grown from 3 to 10 to 20 to 30, we'll probably be 40 or more people by the end of the year. I realized that the bottleneck to our growth and scale is going to be leadership. So we've created within our business, we call it Leadership Book Club. And the whole company, from the guy who sweeps the floors to me, we all read the same book at the same time. And then we try and do twice a month, but once a month for sure. We all get in the same room and we talk through whatever chapters we were supposed to read. And I've got a guy that's been with me for 5 or 6 years now, 7 years. And he was just a salty old dog, you know. He worked in a cabinet shop forever, and he very salty, you know. It's right or it's wrong. If you're late, don't even worry about coming into his people. He'd run off more
my kind of people.
Run off more employees than I can count. But when I saw him, you know, the response that he started to have to some of these books that we're reading, and his response to watching me change as a person and become a leader, it's one of my I don't want to call it a success or anything, but I'm very proud of that, right? That I can teach an old dog new tricks, right? That through, you know, I see people arguing, and I'm going to make a comparison here, but I see people arguing about politics and religion all the time. You're wrong. Right. I'm right on social media. But what they don't get is you're never going to change anyone's mind by telling them they're wrong.
You bet.
But when they see you living out your values and living out the things that you say you're going to do, it softens them up, and they're like, well, maybe they are right. And I feel like by setting an example for my people, and giving them an example to follow, not only am I the guy that says, don't do as I do as I say,
right.
I'm giving them, you know, proof that it's working, and they're all seeing my life elevate because of the pouring into myself of
it's huge
knowledge and learning. And when he's reading these books, he's taking it very serious, and he's coming to work, and he's sharing these things with his wife and with his family, and he's telling me how much better of a leader he is at home, and how his family's responding so much better to who he's becoming instead of how it used to be. That means a lot to me, you know, that if one person, and I know that especially on social media, like you have a way bigger footprint than I do, but I'm getting all types of people that are reaching out to me and saying that they've seen, read, or saw something that resonated with them, and thank you for putting that out, right? I know that's, you know, different than a success at work, but seeing that with the people that I work with and watching them become leaders and create visions inside their parts of the business themselves is a big win for me.
Okay, so you're answering the question, so I'm sure you've already heard all these before. So if you could go back to the day you walked out of your house, day after graduating high school, to go get a full-time job, what would you tell yourself based on everything you know now?
Be 47 in a couple months. I really didn't start getting my shit together until I was 42, 43, right?
I'm about 6 years into it, so I get that.
And I beg young people, my family, my team members, you know, my kids, to start sooner, right? I've got a girl that works in my office. She's my daughter-in-law. She's married to Brian, my son. One of the smartest people I've ever met. She's 25 years old, and she knows a lot for her age and wisdom, right? And maturity. She's just an old soul. And, you know, I know that we all have to live life and experience it to get to where we're at and all things, so we'll know how to process going forward. But had I started sooner, I would probably already be a billionaire. We all say that, right? But I just wish that I had started learning and pouring into myself and realizing that it's not about the money sooner. It's not, you know, if you want to have a job and you know, your 2.5 kids, your dog and your wife and your 2 car payments, that's fine. If that's your vision and version of success, please, that is fine. But if you want more out of life, right, you have to go look for it, and you have to deliver value to the world. You know, the world will pay you the value you bring, and if the value you bring is just your time, you're gonna get paid for that. That's why CEOs, coaches, NFL coaches, you know, YouTube influencers, all these people, they're bringing bigger value to the world, right? It's not that a soldier brings any less value to the world, but that's the path he chose, and his influence isn't as great as someone who is getting in front of more people and bringing value in another way. So value is how you get paid in this world, and leadership is how you can influence others. So become a leader, deliver value, and I wish I had started doing that sooner. I wish I had known that principle, in my 20s. Someone might have told me, but I wasn't in any place where I wanted to hear it. I was going to be a professional fisherman.
There you go.
Money be damned.
Billy, this has been fun. Thank you.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you having me on. I really love talking business. I love getting around people who are doing big things. And I knew who you were long before I knew who you were, right? Long before we'd ever met or talked or chatted. And it's very inspiring and humbling to be able to participate in this day in your journey as well. So I appreciate you having me on.
All right, bro.
Thank you.